Hi guys, what's going on and welcome to another video. So in this video we're going to be looking at quarterstaffs. We're finally getting there. I have to be truthful, I actually completely forgot about quarterstaffs. I skipped right past them, went straight for the curstaff. But we're back, we're ready to go for it. Just before we start this video, I'd like to say thank you to a couple of people. I had someone the other day message me with basically some artwork that he's designed for me. I plan to use it in the next couple of days. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm just going to show on screen here now. So there we go. He designed this for me based on my current logo. So I want to give a shout out to, let's just find the name so I don't butcher it like I normally do. This is from a guy named Benner on YouTube. Benner, if you're watching this, bear in mind you said you were going to watch the Quarterstaff meta video. I'd like to personally say thank you. It's brilliant. I promise I will try and use it. I'd also like to say thank you to Vivardius. He's on Discord. If you guys want any artwork done, feel free to shout and I'll see if I can get in contact with either of these guys, see if they want any of the work. I'm sure we can sort something out. Yeah, but Vivardius did my logo, my banner at the top on my YouTube and Twitch. He's done a bit of artwork for me, and again, he's done it all for free just because he likes watching the channel. So again, I have to say thank you to him. Anyway, guys, let's get into it. So we're finally on quarterstaffs. After this, we're going to be going to Tomb of Spells, like offhand stuff. Sorry, I've had a couple of drinks today. We've had family come down. It's actually my birthday tomorrow, so quite looking forward to that. But yeah, so we've got this to do, and then we're going to do all the offhands in one. And yeah, so I've got a little bit of an announcement for the end of the video, so please check that out. Even if you just watch the quarterstaff stuff and then skip to the end, I have got a little bit of a video for you, a little bit of an announcement, if you would stick around to have a look. But anyway, let's get into what you're here for, shall we? So, as always, we're going to be using the Tier 8 Quarterstaff, the Tier 8 weapon, to showcase the passives, the damage. As I always say, the damage will be slightly sort of higher because of the base item power, but you get the idea. So we're going to start off with the Quarterstaff, the base weapon. And we're going to get straight into it. So the passives today are... Actually, I'm going to do this time because I forgot to in the other ones. The resources needed are 12 steel bars and 20 leather. This is one of them rare weapons that don't actually need a wood, which is really good because you can actually do this come launch. If you wanted to do these weapons, you could do this with like a plate leather setup. So maybe like plate helmet, leather helmet, leather chest, plate boots, and you could do your whole gear with just steel bars and leather. It's a pretty good idea actually if you guys are interested. But anyway, let's get into the passives. So stunning strike. Every 5 normal attacks, your attacks stun the enemy for 1.42 seconds. Every other time I say this is complete trash. Quarterstaffs do a lot of auto attacks. Definitely something worth looking at. It interrupts a lot in them. 1v1 scenarios, definitely very good. In fights, I don't know, I don't like it. It just seems a little bit too long-winded for something that doesn't give a huge benefit. However, it's still not bad, so it's still something you could potentially look at. Temporary threat bonus, again I always say it, this is only ever good if you're using, if you're tanking. In PvP it's completely useless. Other than that, whatever, it sucks in PvP, it literally doesn't give you any benefit. Life Leech, every normal attack you restore 9 health. This actually gets buffed with a couple of other things like your item power and stuff. It makes a big difference to this. It can give you quite good sort of regen actually, so if you're looking for that idea of build, then this is potentially something to look at. However, I wouldn't use it in a like 5v5 scenario, bear in mind that's what this game is based around. I just don't think it offers you enough to be worth it. Maybe there's potential ways you could make this offer more, like if you increase your attack speed in any way, directly increasing your attack speed increases your survivability then because of this passive. So maybe, definitely something to test out. And then we have Dread Laden Fighting. Every 4 normal attacks, your crowd control effects are increased by 35% for 2 seconds. So my opinion, I prefer this over Stunning Strike, although they are the 2 main options. The reason I prefer this is because you can actually, it's your decision when to make them crowd control effects. If you've got 3 normal attacks already stacked up, you use that 4th one and go for a big sort of stun run, get a 7 or 8 second stun on someone, you could potentially end them. Like, they can't do much to get out of that. Like, it can make a huge difference in a fight. Stunning strike puts more stuns out in total, however they're not when you want them, they are when just after 5 attacks, so it's completely random. I prefer Dreadladen fight, and I think you can do more with this spell. However, let's get straight into the spells. So the first ability here is Concussive Blow. You deal 258 damage to the target and slow them slightly for a few seconds. I believe this is about a 15-second slow, but don't quote me on it. This effect stacks up, and after collecting the 3rd charge, you'll stun the target while consuming all charges. Basically, that 4th stack, after collecting the 3rd charge. I can't remember if this is the 4th Q or the 3rd Q, but in fact, I believe it is the 4th. You get a stun, which is quite nice. So this, if you haven't noticed already by just the general theme of things, the whole point of Quarterstaff seems to be just to stun, disrupt people. Concussive Blow means you can actually build this up and then use the Q when you want to for the stun. Definitely a good tactic. It deals a good amount of base damage as well. 17 energy cost, which is massive. You will have energy problems with this, with any of these weapons. And a 3-second cooldown, so you look how quickly you can burn through energy. It's just nuts. You then have Cartwheel. Cartwheel forward, dealing 221 damage to all enemies hit, knocking them back a short distance and interrupting spellcasts. If you take damage during the Cartwheel, your move speed is increased by 30% and your resistance is by 59 for 5 seconds. So if you're good at timing this, I think this is always the superior one in 5v5. You do a lot less damage, however you can disrupt so much more. You get a lot tankier. When I was playing this, I actually played double-bladed staff for a little while. Other than the knockback and the interrupt, I basically got the resistance buff every single time, and that's almost equivalent to, like, sort of counter equivalent to the armor pierce. You think how much armor pierce does for you, this does a very similar amount in terms of how much resistance it gives you. It also gives you that massive amount of move speed. 23 energy cost, which is huge, however it got a 6-second cooldown, which is quite long for a spam Q ability. 4 meter range, which is slightly above melee. All in all, if you're looking to do damage, Concussive Blow. If you're looking to disrupt, I think Cartwheel's probably the best. Empowered Slam. So I'm actually going to skip over this ability for a minute and we'll come back to it in a second. The reason for this is I think this ability is completely useless because of the ability you unlock later on. But we'll go over that in a second. So the second ability is Stun Run. Increases your move speed by 30% for 5 seconds, and your next auto attack will stun the enemy for 6.99 seconds. So a couple of things with this. One, you basically can keep this up a third of the time. Without any cooldown reduction, you can keep this up a third of the time. And it also stacks with Run, which means you could get the 70% from Run, the 30% from this, and you're running at like sprint speed for 5 seconds. Really, really strong. And obviously if you hit someone, then that's a big stun. I tend to play around, when I was playing around with this on the test servers, I played around with Dreadladen, and I was using this in addition with Stun Run because I could keep someone stunned basically just for a ridiculous amount of time. Because as he was coming out of that, I could then spam Qs. I was getting the proc again on the 4th Q, giving me a 35% increased stun. Like, it's just crazy. The amount you can actually do with this, you do a lot, and you stun for so long. Like, you become an ultimate disruptor. If you're ever using like plate armor, always the increased CC duration. It's just so strong. But yeah, 46 energy cost is massive, and a 15-second cooldown. The 15-second cooldown is really nice. However, like I said, the energy costs on this weapon are super, super high. You're really going to struggle. And we're going to go to the final ability. Heavy Cleave unleashes a heavy attack that deals 900 damage to all enemies in front of you. 33 energy cost, 15-second cooldown, and a 0.43 second cast time. So it's less than half a second cast time. It's just ridiculously quick. If you're good at aiming it, you're always going to hit someone. You have so many stuns that you can pretty much guarantee hitting it, and it deals a ridiculously high amount of base damage. So the reason I don't like this one compared to this one is that that's a 454 physical damage in a 3 meter radius. So it's a 7-second cooldown on a 30-second energy cost, whereas this is only a 33 energy cost, and it's a lot more bursty damage. I think this one just wins out every time. So basically use this one for damage, this one for disruption, and this one as soon as you unlock it to beat out that. And then we're going to get into the first E of the day. Forceful Swing deals 172 physical damage to each enemy in 5 meter radius around you, and knocks them back 14 meters. The attack will numb their arms, lowering their damage dealt by 20% and making them unable to use normal attacks for 5 seconds. Normal attack disable only works against players. So normal attacks are your spam, like your actual attacks on your weapon, which is just ridiculous. Like, what? You do less damage with auto attacks, and then you can't use abilities. Like, this is very underused. I think you can disrupt an entire team, you can knock everyone back, lower damage. You do so much with this weapon in terms of disruption. However, it does a very small amount of damage, so you're making that trade-off there. I think if you were going to run this, you run like a support build with Quarterstaff, and you could potentially do a lot if you play well. 53 energy cost, again, massive energy cost. You're going to have so many mana issues with this. Just a suggestion, use Scholar Cow with this, with the energy shield. Gives you a bit of resistances, it's quite a short cooldown, and the energy you get back from it is really high when you start building some mastery in it. It can kind of fund Quarterstaffs and double-bladed staffs and all that, basically the Quarterstaff tree in terms of energy. Otherwise you just haven't got a chance after one round of abilities. Let's move on to the second one. So the second one is going to be Ironclad Staff, Hurricane. The caster spins around, dealing 77 damage and knocking away enemies in a 5 meter radius. So you deal damage on impacting with someone, and then you knock them back, and then you deal damage when you impact them again, and it just works like that. You can knock someone away a massive amount with this if you focus on one person and just knocking them back. 46 energy cost and 20-second cooldown. Like, if you get some cooldown reduction on this, so I think if you were to run like a leather set with this, you could just knock someone back consistently. You could really disrupt a team. I'm surprised more builds haven't seen this in play, running like a cartwheel, stun run, hurricane. You can just be an ultimate disruptor. And these two, basically Black Monk Stave, Soul Scythe, Quarterstaff and Ironclad Staff, are all built to be massive disruptors. The only one that seems otherwise is the double-bladed staff, but we'll get into that in a second. Like, you can just break a team with this. I definitely am surprised we haven't seen more of these played. I would like to see the game go in the direction of having like a tank, a support, a healer and 2 DPS as meta, rather than 3 DPS or 4 DPS, which is what it is now. But potentially you could even run this as like a hybrid tank DPS type. If you were to run Concussive Blow, Heavy Cleave and this, you could basically do a massive burst on someone and then knock away the rest of his team. I do not want to duel, thank you. Yeah, so it's definitely a good weapon. I'm surprised it's very underplayed, but definitely something you guys should look at if you're interested in trying another weapon, and if it suits your playstyle to be upfront and personal. Double-bladed staffs. This staff's a little bit famous because of Veton, just because he does a lot of ganking, or he did a lot of ganking with it, and that's what this weapon is about. It's about ganking. So on this weapon, if you look at it and think about it, you've got Overpower, which is this ability here, charges towards an area, dealing 231 damage to all enemies in a 5 meter radius on impact. Damaged enemies will also be slowed by 50% for 9.93 seconds. So for me, I would also run some CC duration on there, get that slow up, the duration of that slow up. In between with stun run, like if you got Dread Laden as well, potentially, if you're spamming Q's, E and then a W with Dread Laden, you can just perma sit on someone. They're not going to be able to escape from you, especially without a horse. The only way you're going to survive one of these is with a horse, basically. They're very, very strong. They do a lot of damage, and actually they can sit on someone pretty consistently. I've seen them work in Hellgates, however they haven't got the most amount of damage. They haven't got any direct CC other than stun run, which means losing a massive amount of burst in your W abilities. They kind of don't have a place in 5v5. This is definitely a ganking weapon, but I urge you to go and give this a go. It's very, very fun. You do a lot of damage with it. Now we have the first tier artifact, the Black Monk Stave. Fatal Blade dashes towards a ground target and pull up to 5 enemies on your way with you, dealing 338 damage to each enemy hit. Energy cost 72, range 9 meters, cooldown 20 seconds. So just to talk about this ability a bit, it's a short range, however it's a big enough range to make a huge impact. Energy cost 72 is massive, but you're only going to get one of these off in a fight. You should only need two in a fight. And 20-second cooldown, which is ridiculously low. Like, this could easily be a 30-second cooldown, and I don't think anyone would sort of complain at it, really. I would use this with, like, potentially a plate chest. So I've had a thought on a build idea for this, running Scholar Cowl, Knight Chest, and the teleport boots, which I believe is Cleric. But let's actually have a look. I want to give the right information out. Yeah, so Cleric. So what you can do with this is actually teleport to them and pull them into your team. So you can teleport behind them, run into them, run at them, teleport into them, and then charge 2 or 3 of their team members back and wimble the rest out. You've just made a big solo engage. You're tanky enough because of the because of the knight's armor. You've also got the wimble to just get rid of the rest of the team. You can do so much with this if you play it well. I think this needs to be played a lot more. It definitely is very, very strong. And they get a little bit of a, not stun, but like a disorient at the end of it. Basically, you can't react for like half a second. Funny enough, you get a 0.43, I believe it's actually a 0.5 second cast heavy cleave. You could do that into a heavy cleave pretty much every time. Another thing that I've thought about for this is running this with the Royal Helmet. When you get good at timing and positioning of that, you could potentially put a Royal Helmet at where they're going to land. So you knock them back into the Royal Helmet, that gets them the stun. There's so many different things you can do with this. It annoys me that this isn't played because it isn't meta. A very, very good staff. I hope people start giving it a go. Just to give a highlight, it's the reinforced Morgana pole that you're looking for on this. But just to have a look at the stats, actually, like, it gives you 300 hit points at just base tier 8 artifact level. Like, you get through resilience in terms of like resistances. You just do so much with this. Like, honestly, it is a very, very good weapon that people just aren't using. And finally, this Soul Scythe. How I love this weapon. So if anyone's ever played League, you're Yasuo. You are Yasuo in a heartbeat. Anyway, let's show this first. So it's the Hellish Sicklehead pair. The artifact needed for this. This is the Hell artifact, so it's very expensive to do. I've actually crafted myself a 4.31 on my ult. I love it. We won a fight earlier, like 5 or 6 people versus 15, and all we did is played around Tornado. I was throwing tornadoes out left, right and centre every 30 seconds, hitting 5 or 6 people at least every time, and it does a high amount of damage, knocks them in the air, and while they're in the air they were getting armour pierced, they were getting AoE'd, they just got absolutely ripped apart. They couldn't do anything. But yeah, so let's read what it does. It creates a tornado and shoots it in a chosen direction. Enemies hit by the tornado will be pulled into the air and receive 602 damage. When enemies are in proximity to the tornado, they will be slowed by 80%. Energy cost 83, cast time is instant, range is 25 meters, and cooldown 30 seconds. Like, it's just ridiculous, isn't it? It's so strong. You can knock an entire team up in the air. You can make an entire team useless by yourself. Just think about how powerful that can actually be. Definitely a weapon that is underused, but because it's a Hell artifact, definitely something that needs to be used. I think it's very, very strong. So that's the Quarterstaffs. How do I think Quarterstaffs are at the moment? I think they're underused, and just people assume they're weak. However, they're really strong. Like, they do a lot of damage, they do a lot of CC, they do a lot of disruption. Like, people really underestimate them. However, they are really good, and if you give them the time of day to put some time into them, I think you would do a lot of work with these. So a couple of announcements. That's the end of this video. A couple of announcements, if you guys don't mind. I actually got a message from Vivardius during this. He's just asked that I mention his name and that he's in the Alliance vein in game. Sorry. So if you want to give him a shout, say thank you, say hi, see if he wants anything, then yeah, see what happens. Maybe you get some work from him. Maybe you do some work with him. I hope so. He's definitely a good artist. The other thing is, I'm also going to be doing interviews. with a couple of the sort of known names of Albion, so to speak. So I've got 2 or 3 lined up already. If you guys want to see anyone in an interview with me, if you want to see if I can organise an interview with someone like a big name or like a YouTuber or a streamer that you watch, let me know and I'll see what I can do. I'm gonna bring out the first one in the next couple of days hopefully, and you get a sort of feel for what I'm doing. But other than that, guys, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that usual stuff. Other than that, catch you later. Goodbye.